So at this point, on the brakes of the car, we've replaced all the hard lines, the wheel cylinders in the rear, and we were in the process of bleeding the brakes to get pressure back into the system. And of course, the one part that we didn't replace, the master cylinder, that sprang a leak. So right now we're in the process of removing the master cylinder and replacing that with a new one. So we're going to basically sort of start from scratch in terms of the bleeding process. We'll take all the hard lines off of it. We've already taken a few of the other soft lines off of it, and slot the new one back in.
So we've got the old master cylinder taken off. It was leaking. We've got the new master cylinder here. There are two sensors on the master cylinder that'll sense when the fluid is low and so forth. So we had to take those off the old master cylinder and put those on the new master cylinder. What we need to do is we need to bleed the new master cylinder before we put it in the car. It's always a good idea, making sure you get all of the air and any air bubbles out of the master cylinder. So in order to do that, they do make little plastic connectors you can put here in these outlets to help with the brake bleeding process. We don't have those, so we're just kind of winging it here. What we ended up doing, if you remember, I suggested saving your old brake lines. So we're going to use our old brake lines. I actually cut them. We're just temporarily putting them back into the master cylinder, and we're going to use that to bleed the system. Then we can bleed the excess brake fluid into these little cups. So it looks like a little bit of a science experiment, but that's what our goal is here. Most master cylinders have a reservoir that's attached to the master cylinder right on top. This Volkswagen's designed a little differently. The reservoir is actually a few feet up on the front firewall, so we don't have that luxury here. So we're going to kind of make do. We're going to use this as our temporary master cylinder reservoir. We're going to fill that up with brake fluid and hook them in here, and that's how we'll bleed the system. So we'll probably need a couple of sets of hands. I'll have Peter holding this up in the air while I bleed the master cylinder. So give us a minute and we'll get set up and we'll take that.
Okay. So got the bottle.
Okay, so Peter's going to hold the bottle, and we're just going to, this will act like the brake lever. We're going to pump the master.
Look at that.
And right away you can see some fluid and bubbles.
It's alive.
So we've got the new master cylinder back in, and we're now just refilling the brake fluid reservoir so we can begin the bleeding process. So we're bleeding the back wheel cylinder. There's a bleed screw on the back, which we can show you a close-up of that in a second. We've got a little bleed cup and a clear PVC tube connected to the back of the bleed screw. And on this is a little, right here you see a little rubber black thing, and that's what fits over the bleed screw. So if we've got someone in the car, they're pressing the brake pedal, I'll loosen the bleed screw, pump the pedal to the floor. I'll then shut the bleed screw off as the pedal comes back up, and we just kind of keep doing that process. Pedal down, pedal up, pedal down, pedal up. And as we're doing that, you'll see the fluid go through the tube. You'll also see any bubbles, air that we're trying to bleed out of the system. So as we're pressing the pedal and you only see clear fluid and no air bubbles, you know that the rear has been bled properly. Okay. So we're getting ready to bleed the front brakes. There's two bleed screws on the front. Got a little PVC hose hooked up to a cup here. And as we do this, you'll see the air bubbles coming through the tube, and you'll be able to see the clear fluid coming through the tube, knowing that we've got that bled. So we're going to start with the lower bleed screw. We'll bleed that first. There's two cavities on this caliper, one on each side, so we'll bleed the lower one first. What you'll see is the fluid coming through our clear PVC tube into the cup, and hopefully you'll also see some of the bubbles that we're bleeding out. You'll see those bubbles come down. And once there's no more bubbles coming out in the tube, then we've got that bled, and then we'll move on to the top one. So Peter's going to get in the car and start pumping the brake while I man the wrench down here. All right, so I'm just going to go up, down, up, down. Peter's going to push on the brake. On the downstroke, I'm going to loosen the bleeder valve. On the upstroke, we'll tighten it back up so that we don't get any air back into the system. So Peter's all ready. We'll go down, up, down, up. In those last couple of strokes, I didn't see any bubbles in the fluid, so I think the bottom is bled, and we'll move on to the top. Ready?
Ready.
Okay, down, up, and you can see all the little bubbles in here. Down, and I'm not seeing any more bubbles at this point. We'll do one or two more pumps just for good measure. Down, up, down, up. Okay, that front caliper is bled.
All right, whew. That was a lot of work. We've got the wheels back on. And Gary, why don't you summarize what we did on the brake system today?
So today we got new master cylinder in. That one was bad, the old one was bad. Got a new master cylinder in, we re-bled all the brakes. And got a nice, good, firm brake pedal. So I think we got a braking system that's back to functioning again. So
And next time, what are we going to tackle?
next time we've got the gas tank fixed, welded, and sealed. So we'll be getting the gas tank back in, and we're going to replace all the fuel lines. There's literally about 20 feet of fuel lines on this car. We're going to be replacing them all, so that'll be next time.
Perfect. So, so that wraps it up for today. So we'll see you again in the Wellworth Garage. I'm Pete.
I'm Gary.
Take it easy.